If you have ever felt confusion around the many concepts surrounding minor scales in music theory, that is, relative minor, parallel minor, and the three types of minor, natural, harmonic, and melodic, this is the video for you. We've compiled all of my deep dives into minor scale theory into this one video, so that 20 minutes from now, if you watch this video, we'll clear up any confusion you might have. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Ted from the past with slightly shorter hair. You might have heard of major scales, and you might have heard of minor scales. Did you know the only difference between them is which note you start on? This is the concept of relative major and minor scales. And if you understand it, you can use a quick shortcut to get from any major scale to its relative minor, which cuts the number of scales you need to learn in half. Instead of 24 total major and minor scales, you just need to learn your 12 major scales, and then you can find your minor scales. To understand the idea, let's look at G major and its relative minor. Here's G major. We would say that the key signature of G major is F sharp. We only use this one black key, F sharp, when we play a G major scale. And that's true wherever we play it on the piano. Now, if I play the same notes that I just used for that G major scale, but I start and end on E, that's an E natural minor scale. So we would say E minor has the same key signature as G major. It only uses an F sharp for its black keys. Now you notice if we start on G and we count numbers for scale degrees here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, E is the 6th scale degree of G major. And this is going to be true for every major key. One way to find its relative minor is to count up to the 6th note of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's our first method for finding a relative minor from any major key. We could try it on a different key. Let's say A major. In this case, we walk up to the 6th note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's F sharp. So if we start on F sharp, and we use all the same black keys that we found in A major. In this case, we need 3 black keys, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. We're going to have an F sharp natural minor scale. So this is the first way of relating a major scale to its relative minor. The relative minor is going to be built on the 6th note of the major scale. There's a shortcut, though. And I promised you a shortcut. So the quickest way to find the relative minor is to walk down 3 half steps. Let's go back to G major to look at this. Okay, if I start on G and I count half steps, that is the very next available note, it'll be 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3 to get down to that relative minor. 3 half steps. And you can use this in either direction. If you're on a minor key and you want to find the relative major, you can walk up 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. That's usually quicker than walking all the way up from the bottom of the scale to the 6th scale degree. So it's a good little trick to remember. 3 half steps in either direction can relate a major scale and its relative minor. And I think a good mnemonic device for this is to think of the easiest major and minor scales on the piano, C major and A natural minor. So C major is the native key signature of the piano keyboard. You can just put your hands down on the keys and you're only going to use white keys. You're only going to use notes from the C major scale. And this makes it easy to remember. Okay, C is kind of our default major key. The natural minor, that's the relative minor of C, is A. How do those 2 keys relate to each other? I will sometimes still quickly reference this as like a little mnemonic for, how do relative minor and major work? Yeah, just think of C major and A minor. They're 3 half steps apart, 1, 2, 3. And the minor is below the major. It's 3 half steps below the major. Major is above the minor. This is a really easy way to remember that rule. You put it in a real context of these two keys, C major and A minor. And those are such easy keys on the piano keyboard that it's a good way to remember how this works. So let's do a little practice. I'm going to give you a major key. I want you to find its relative minor. Here's your major key, E flat major. In this case, we're using 3 flats in the key, B flat, E flat, and A flat. So we want to make sure to include those flats when it comes time to play this new minor scale. But let's find the root of the relative minor scale, and we're going to use our 3 half steps trick. So start on E flat, and which way did you need to walk? Is it down or up? Well, you can think A minor is down from C major, so I need to walk down 3 half steps to get to that minor. And interesting, okay, this is actually C minor. So the relative minor to E flat major is C minor, and we're going to use all those flats. We get the sound of C minor. C minor and C major are also related to each other, but they're related in a different way. We call those parallel major and minor. Parallel means that they start and end on the same note. So C major and C minor are parallel. A flat major and A flat minor are parallel. Parallel is one of those things where when you ask a student, okay, what's the parallel major or minor to this other key? It's almost like a trick question because it's so easy. You just say the same name of the key. But it's helpful to understand the difference between a major key and its parallel minor. Here's the sound of a major key. And here's the sound of its parallel minor. This concept is useful because it lets you look at what makes major and minor keys sound different. We can isolate the notes that change as we go, for example, from C major to C minor. I want you to think in terms of numbers and try to identify the notes that are different when I first play C major and then C minor. There's C major. And there's C minor. Which scale degrees changed? The key of C is so great for this because you can identify the notes that changed just because they're black keys, right? C major only uses white keys. C minor does use a few black keys, and they are this note, which is the 3rd note of the scale, this note, which is the 6th, and this, which is the 7th. This is true every time you go from a major key to its parallel minor. You lower the 3rd scale degree a half step, and then the same for the 6th and the 7th scale degrees. Let's try it with D major. Here's D major. Okay, we start with these 2 black keys, F sharp and C sharp in the major key signature. Now I'm going to lower the 3rd, so F sharp becomes F. I'm going to lower the 6th, so B becomes B flat. And I'm going to lower the 7th so that C sharp becomes C natural. And now I have D minor, the parallel minor to D major. These lowered notes create a darker sound, a more melancholy sound. And that's not only true for melodies played using this scale, but also the harmony that gets created. Think about the harmony that's created from a major scale. Well, we call these diatonic chords. These are chords that belong in the key. We build these chords by skipping every other note in the major scale. And these chords have a certain sound to them. You know, a lot of pop music is built around the 1, 5, 6, and 4 chords in a major key. Now, if we switch to the diatonic chords that belong in a minor key, they have a very different sound. And for now, I'm just going to stick to natural minor, and we'll touch on what I mean by that in a moment. So if we play those most common chord functions in the parallel minor, 1, 4, 5, and 6, they've all flipped from major to minor or vice versa. So, the 1 chord was major, now it's minor. The 4 chord was major, now it's minor. 5 was major, now it's minor, at least in this natural minor key. And then the 6th chord becomes a major chord, and it's built on, this lowered 6th scale degree. So the harmony just sounds really different. The harmony sounds much darker. And that's part of the common understanding of what makes a minor key song different from a major key song. That kind of darker, sadder sound doesn't just have to do with melodies built off the scale. It has to do with the harmony that's happening in the song. Now, I mentioned distinguishing this as natural minor. I said we're staying in natural minor for now. That's because there are actually several different types of minor scales. And you're in a great position now to learn about those 3 types of minor scales: natural minor, harmonic minor, and melodic minor, because you understand parallel major and minor and this concept of the lowered 3rd, 6th, and 7th scale degrees. If you're like most piano students, you might be asking, why do we need 3 kinds of minor scales? And also, how am I going to remember the difference between them? And the answer to both questions is tied up in the names of these scales. The natural minor scale is kind of the default. It shares all the same notes with its relative major. The harmonic minor scale is really good for creating harmony, for creating chords in a way that the natural minor scale is not. And the melodic minor scale is great for playing melodies. So let's give clear definitions for the differences between these 3 scales using the key of C as an example. And along the way, we'll relate everything to the names in a way that will help you to remember these. It's good to be able to find these scales on your own, but if you'd like a reference guide, I have a 3-page guide to all 12 keys for all 3 types of minor scale, and that's available for free at my website, and you can follow the link. We'll start off with C natural minor. And as with most things in music theory, we're actually going to define it using the major scale. We're going to look at the parallel major, that is C major, the major scale that starts and ends on the same note. So C major needs its 3rd, 6th, and 7th scale degrees lowered by a half step in order to become C natural minor. The nice thing as we move on to these other types of minor is that they keep that lowered 3rd. Every kind of minor scale has a lowered 3rd. It's kind of the characteristic sound of the minor scale. So actually, we're only worried about scale degrees 6 and 7. Those are the only things that change as we shift between one minor scale and another. The default with this natural minor scale is that we have them both lowered, flat 6 and flat 7, compared to the parallel major, okay? And because we like to define everything by the major scale in music theory, I'm just going to call these flat 6 and flat 7, even though if we're thinking in natural minor, this is the default. All right, so when we go to harmonic minor, instead of flat 3, flat 6, and flat 7, we're only using flat 3 and flat 6. The 7 remains in the same place it would be for the major scale. The reason we do this is for the sake of harmony. That's why this is called the harmonic minor scale. Listen to this very, very common cadence, 5-1. If I play that with the natural minor scale, it has this kind of neutral sound. But if I play it with the harmonic minor scale, it has a very strong forward-leaning sound. And composers love that sound. We rely on it heavily for a sense of resolution in a major key. And it's nice to be able to use it in minor keys as well. A really strong 5-1 resolution. The really important note in that resolution, kind of the money note, is that 7th scale degree resolving upward to 1. So that might help you to remember this. That's how I remember. What is harmonic minor? Well, I need that leading tone. I need that seventh scale degree to lead really strongly up a half step into one. Okay, so the seventh scale degree is going to be the same as the major scale. It's just a half step below the root. But I still need the other lowered notes in the minor scale. I need the flat 6 and the flat 3. That's harmonic minor. And harmonic minor has this interesting interval between flat 6 and natural 7. We call that interval an augmented second. It's not terribly important that you know that, but the sound of that interval is really interesting. It's kind of wider. It gives it, some people feel like it's kind of an exotic sound. So that's part of what you can also associate with the harmonic minor scale. A melodic minor scale sounds like this. If you like things to be simple, this might be a little maddening because we actually have a scale that's different going up versus going down. Let's look at what changes. So on the way up, we actually only use that lowered third. The 6 and 7 now are identical to the parallel major scale. So the only thing that's changed from C major is that we lower that third and have an E flat. And the reason we like this for melodies, right, melodic minor, is that it leads so strongly up to the 1. It avoids that augmented second that we get in harmonic minor, and we get this really strong melodic upward movement, 5, 6, 7, 1. That makes this quite common in minor key songs within a melody. It may be that most of the other harmonic and melodic material in the piece just uses the notes from natural minor or maybe harmonic minor, but often when a melody is leading from the 5 up to the 1, it will follow this pattern that's like stolen from the major scale. 5, 6, 7, 1. Just so that we have that really strong sense of leading upward. Now, meanwhile, when we're leading downward, it's nice to pull again from that darker natural minor sound. And here, it actually leads really strongly down to the 5 if we use that lowered 7th and lowered 6th. We end on that half step resolution, and it has a really nice downward pull. So when we're on our way up, we raise everything, raised 6th, raised 7th, compared to the natural minor. And when we're on our way down, we lower everything. Lowered 7th, lowered 6th. And that's melodic minor. So to review, we're going to compare all 3 types of minor to C major. C natural minor has a lowered 3rd, 6th, and 7th. C harmonic minor has just a lowered 3rd and 6th. And C melodic minor starts with just a lowered 3rd and then lowers the 6th and 7th on the way down. If you like the way that I teach theory and you'd like more in-depth guidance on how to practice these scales in every key and get really comfortable with them as an improviser, become a member at pianofluency.com. That's the best way that I can help you. I have a very robust learning path there in an online course for students who find me online, along with an online community with other piano students and a live class that I teach once a week for all members. So I love working with people in the Piano Fluency program, and you can join by heading to my website, pianofluency.com, and becoming a member. I'd love to see you there. Either way, if you want more free piano education videos like this, you should subscribe to this channel. And I want to thank you for joining me. My name is Ted with Piano Fluency.